a podcast about the game of life and the hero's journey we all experience. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
Are you interested in what it takes to become a VR content creator? Are you fascinated with the world of VR and you want to learn more? Well, on today's podcast, I have Jasmine. She is a VR content creator primarily on YouTube and TikTok. She started in VR content creation at the beginning of the pandemic, and she's been interested in XR for over a decade. She's focused on VR tech, product reviews, and gameplay. Her goal is to make VR accessible and not intimidating by creating easy to understand videos. And so without any delay, I'd like to welcome Jasmine from VR with Jasmine.
Hello, everybody. Hey. Happy to be here. Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah, stoked to be here. It was great to connect with you. We met at the AW conference up in the press booth, and we're kind of getting the lay of the land. I think part of us, people that are into VR and tech and the news, is kind of being a part of these conferences, but we haven't really had it because of the whole pandemic, you know?
This year has been a blast with all of the conferences coming back, but I feel like I've just been catching up, going to all of them possible. And it's a lot after not doing anything for a while.
It's so weird after the pandemic, going and meeting people and going to these places. It's so fun. You know, it's like running into like old friends and
it's so much fun. I can't even explain how fun it is. Yeah. It's like, there's so many layers to it. It's like running into people that feel like old friends, checking out all these cool technology, and then talking about all the cool tech that you see now with all the other people that are also obsessed with like the same thing that you're obsessed with. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah. Did you get sick at all during the AW conference or anything? Did you catch COVID at all during that thing? No?
No, because I caught COVID during GDC, like 3 months prior. But I didn't get it at CES, which is where all my friends got it. So then when I got at GDC, they didn't get it because they had already gotten it.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, because I went to GDC. I didn't get it at GDC. I got it at AW. I got it at the AW conference.
No.
And like half a dozen people that I talked to that were all at the AW conference, they're like, "Hey man, I can't talk. I've got COVID." And so like it hit. I was like, man, I thought I dodged that train, but it wasn't too bad. You know, it wasn't too crazy.
Yeah, it sucked, that's for sure. But at least, I don't know, I guess hopefully I'm like more immune to it now.
It's good. I know that's really just some immunity as we go through it. At the conference, did you see anything that stood out to you that was like, oh my God, that's incredible?
Yeah, like a bazillion things. But I think the one that's been standing out the most in my mind has been the haptics gloves. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's HAPT capital X. Mm-hmm. Those gloves were insane. You had to put on this backpack, which I guess had like pneumatics in it. And basically these gloves just are the most realistic and most immersive VR gloves that you can have. It's just that it's huge. Like the gloves themselves are huge, and you have this backpack that's powering the gloves. So yeah, that stood out in my mind a lot.
I didn't get to try that. I saw people walking around, but they had this just giant backpack with a huge power cable running into it. Was that the one?
Yes, and the line was very long. So actually I had booked like way in advance to get a demo. Otherwise there was no way we were going to get it. But I think the thing that really that was really prominent in my mind was how there was there was like a faucet that was dripping water, and then there was another like leaky pipe that was like blowing out steam, and you could put your hand under the faucet that was leaking and you can feel the droplets of water. And if you put your hand over the steam, you could feel the steam. And like, if you know in real life, like those are two distinct feelings, but I could feel them in my palm very distinctly. And I was just like, I don't know how they did that. Apparently they do like skin displacement or something. I don't really understand, but it was very like complicated.
Sure. That sounds amazing. And let's get into like the haptics. I mean, there's like these holy grail or these ultimate, areas that we're trying to get to in like the area of world of VR, right? And one of them is the sense of touch, right? And being able to get that to happen. The thing that I thought was pretty cool and better than I thought it would be at the AW conference was the smell-o-vision stuff, the OVR.
OVR, yeah. They won one of the awards. Like, dude, rightfully so. That was so good.
You tried it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I thought was crazy about it, what they did really well is, because I've tried it years ago, and it kind of just felt like someone took like a car freshener and shoved it up my nose aggressively and without without sympathy. I was like, oh, it's too much. But with that one, you actually had the ability with the VR to actually you grabbed like a marshmallow from the distance, and then you could smell it, but then you bring it closer and you could actually smell more of it. And that was actually really neat with the OVR technology. And I was like, okay. And I was like, where do you use this? And they're like, you can use it in clinical settings, for like inducing trauma and things like that. Or you can do it like, I think they said that they're going to be working with Bed Bath and Beyond, which makes sense, right? To actually try out stuff that you could just, that's mostly what you do inside. Or at least what I do. I smell everything.
Yeah, just smell everything, and then you don't even know what anything smells like anymore because your nose is all confused.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need some sort of like ginger for the nose, something like that, right? That's cool. So you talked about like, well, at least in the bio, you got started in the pandemic, but you said you've been in VR for over a decade, or you've been fascinated with it. Can you talk to me about like the origin stories of you being into VR?
Yeah, I mean, so technically I've like been in VR since like 2017, like with the headset itself, but the technology itself, I've been like very fascinated with it since a young age, I would say. And it's not just VR, I would say even like AR. And this is like a very weird memory to think about, but I used to watch Dragon Ball Z growing up, and I just remember them having the power readers, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I'm pretty sure that was like my first experience with like, or seeing AR. And then soon after that, I started seeing like all these ads for Google Glass. And again, I was just like, I need to have this. I was like a little kid wanting, not knowing where I would get the money, but I was like, I don't care. I just want it. And then it never came out. And so I guess I've been following all of this technology this whole time. And when like, the Samsung Gear VR came out, that was the very first one that I got. I had just gotten a new phone. And I was like, screw it. I'm going to get another new phone and just buy this. And it kind of just kept going from there.
Yeah, the Gear was the first sign of it being like less friction and less effort. And I think that like there's a thing where VR is a perpetual game of like almost good enough, almost awesome. And so you go through this thing where it's like, I think like the Gear, when you first got it, you're like, oh, cool, I got my phone, I got my headset, slam it in, bada bing, bada boom, and it was great. The only thing is that you had that 3DOF, right? So you're like this,
oh, yeah.
right? And so like you try to bring forward,
yeah.
Yeah.
But even that, like even the 3DOF, like to someone who was only doing like the little roller coaster on the cardboard, being able to do the 3DOF at home and like, I think it was called Into the Blue or something. That was the first one that I did. And I don't know how to explain it, but when you get transported from where you are to somewhere else for the very first time, it was like very magical.
Yeah, that's the thing is you didn't have a giant computer. You didn't have to have all this stuff. It was like, you should just set up it was low friction, not as much availability we have these days, but still pretty low friction. I'm going to say what's up for Bradford. Hey, brother, what's up, man? Welcome to the show. So glad you could make it. Let us know if you have any questions for Jasmine here, especially in the areas of VR. We will put her wonderful brain to the test. It's like Jeopardy. I'll let the card slip up. Yeah, I remember doing was it the Gear VR? Was that when they had the Paul and Felix demo? Where you had it and you're sitting inside there with the dude with the piano playing, and it would like.
I don't remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I remember trying to develop on that, and it was really hard. I did like hackathons trying to build with the Gear VR, and I'm like, why isn't this working? It was really.
That's so impressive. I was not trying to develop for it. I was just like, I want to try. I need to get as many people into this as possible. And I remember like running downstairs and I was like, Mom, you got to try this. Like, just sit here. And then I remember like her expression. And yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, there is like, I mean, one of the cool things about like being an evangelist to VR is like when you slam that headset on somebody and you watch their mind get blown. Right. You get to share. I almost feel like I'm not a parent, but I imagine that like when parents have kids and they get to relive their childhood again, taking them to Disneyland or whatever they do, you get to relive that magic moment. You know?
It's a very great moment. And luckily I've experienced it quite a bit of times.
Yeah. Can you talk to me about a time like that you had, like whether it's your first one of the things that stands out to you in terms of like a mind blowing moment in VR where you're like, oh my God.
I mean, I would go back again still to that time when I was Into the Blue and just seeing like the whales like swimming around me. Like I would never go underwater that deep. At least I'm too scared to. But it just like you see them like swimming around you, and to an extent, I was like, oh gosh, should I be like not able to breathe because I'm underwater? I don't know. It was like some weird things are going on in my mind. And then another experience that I think was very memorable was at the beginning of the pandemic. I started playing Beat Saber, and of course that's great. But I think, but then I was also, I was still needing to socialize, and no one was leaving their house. So then I went to VR chat, and I found out that there was like karaoke in VR chat, and it just like made me want to tear up and cry because like we were all locked up in our house for so long, and then all of a sudden I was here in a room full of like strangers from all around the world, and everyone was just singing, even if all of us had like weird different latencies, and so then everyone was like singing at different points. Some people were really good, some people were terrible, but it didn't matter because even though we were technically alone and we were all very isolated, we were still able to feel like we were a part of like, we were still socializing. And I think that was really impactful to me too.
That's cool. Yeah, the VR chat is a wonderful and wacky place. There is a 1,000 different flavors in there to sample.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because you can look like anything in there. It's one of the few ones that you can. And it went fairly crazy anime, high fidelity anime, which is really, everybody wants to be an anime girl, which is pretty interesting, Yeah, but I don't know why when you're talking about the karaoke thing, I just pictured singing like Born to Be Free while locked in your house,
Yeah, like exactly. That was a feeling that it felt like. And so then I started frequenting it often. I was like, oh, I need to get other people in here.
Yeah.
Like it's just a very crazy experience, I think.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of things. I mean, what I think is crazy is people actually sleep inside VR chat. They're like sleepers.
Yeah. I've seen those, and I don't even get it because your eyes are closed. Like I don't understand, but I guess I don't really understand it. I would lay there with my eyes open and just look at stuff and be relaxed.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's for like the only like major use case that I saw that would be pretty cool is like if you have like a relationship and like you got like a significant other that lives far away, right? Then you cuddle up with them with like a fake pillow and like you can like it feels like they're there, right? You can
that's true.
Spoon them. I mean, that's the one thing I could see as a really useful benefit where you could see them. You just wish you could kind of like poke them, while they're. I remember like back in the day, like talking to a girlfriend and like falling asleep on the phone with her and like waking up. And I think I only made it like one time successfully waking it up next to her. So I could kind of see it, but
that's true. I do remember those days. So yeah, I guess this is like the new or like updated version of like falling asleep on your brick phone.
Yeah. What else have you seen? Like, I mean, inside VR chat or any of the other social apps that like might be weird or might stand out to you as like that's like unexpected?
Well, okay, so I don't know if you've heard of Neosphere. So Neosphere is like a pretty underground in terms of like social VR apps, just because they don't really market themselves. And honestly, it's very hard to like onboard onto Neosphere because they don't really work on like user interface. So a lot of the people that are in there tend to be like really heavily tech people, like engineering people, creative types, people that are really hardcore VR and like don't care that there's so much friction. But when I've gone in there, it really feels like Ready Player One. Like you could literally do whatever the heck you want. And so you can climb anything, you can ride hoverboards, flip upside down, go from one world to another, bring everything with you. Like you can take objects from anywhere, you can scale objects, scale yourself. So it's really like unbounded. Wow. And so, yeah, and because it's so unbounded, it's interesting to go into like the worlds that people have created. And some of the worlds that people have created are so unusual and something I would never even think of in real life that I don't even know how to like feel when I'm there. So for example, there was this one tiny little planet. It's like a very small planet and only a couple of you can like fit on there. And it's literally a planet with a cow on it and a bunch of buckets. And you just milk the cow on this planet. And it was just like, what? Like, who thought of this? It is so random. But at the same time, we had so much fun. We were like, whoa, you can like milk the cow on this tiny planet and like look at the space, like solar system. Like I just don't even understand how like people think of these things. And I'm very surprised too with how I react and how like that is something that, sticks with me when it's such a random thing that I would have never like thought of experienced.
It's so funny trying to explain decent VR games or experiences to people always sounds like you woke up halfway through a dream and you're trying to grab everything, It's strange. It's just it sounds so wacky, but I could see how someone would stumble upon this like, what the hell is this? And like, oh, this is kind of fun, right? And like it's just you couldn't predict, you couldn't
it's
write
so
that up on
wacky.
paper. Yeah.
And I feel like, okay, so I kind of compare VR to like movies, because there are some movies that are more like streamlined, more normal story that you'd experience. Then there's also crazy movies like Inception. And so if you compare it to that, like, yes, there's like normal experiences in VR, but then there's also all these wacky ones that really like shift your mindset and make you think deeper, or sometimes not deeper, and just kind of have a good time.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing. Like when you put the tools into the people's hands, like then it just goes all types of crazy on things that you can do. I mean, it was awesome and wild, but like the breadth and depth of people's imagination is crazy. I just kind of like, I know with like VR chat, there's like so many worlds you have access to on the PC that you don't have access to on the Quest. And I'm primarily a Quest user. And so I'm just like, I was like, oh, I want to check all these worlds, but I feel like I'm gated. I'm like a second citizen.
It is, yeah, because like my younger sister, she also was just on the Quest, and so when we would go into VR chat, I'm like, can you not see me picking up like this hot dog or these like items? Can you not see all these like sparkling lights? And she's like, no, I see like a plain wall and there's no food in here. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, and it's just like, man, it's weird, and I feel like it's almost like dystopian. Like in the future, maybe some people have like really great headsets where you can see like extremely great graphics, but then other people that might not be as well off will have like the baseline. It's going to be interesting.
That's totally going to be a thing for sure. Someone's going to have like the touch gloves and the smell of vision and the lick of vision or whatever they got,
Oh my gosh, lick of vision.
I don't. I'm very curious. Here, quick, put this in your mouth. You're like, I don't want to. That'd be crazy. I know one thing you have in terms of social. I saw on because you have a YouTube channel. One of the things you have is like the 10 VR dates that are better than real life. Do you want to talk a little bit about that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I have like a long-term partner, and so for me, we weren't like using VR as a long distance thing. But I know of people who met in VR and did dates in VR and then eventually met in person like years later. So a lot of people actually at the beginning of the pandemic were meeting people and getting into relationships through VR. And then once people were able to travel again, we're like all of a sudden flying across the world to meet people. So that part's pretty wild. But in terms of like, so for people that are, I guess, already know each other in real life, in my case, like the reason I like VR for going on dates is that one, it's like cheaper, and then two, as you're like older, it's just so much effort to go out and then be around people. And so it's just like, it's a convenience factor, unfortunately. And it's like, I mean, there's times when I want to go out so I can be in the ambience of other people, but there's times that you just want to go out and like spend time with your person. So like, you could do like walkabout mini golf is like a really fun one. Or if you're trying to be around other people while still hanging out with your person, you could do like go around VR chat together or explore different things together. And I think the part that's interesting about using VR to go on dates versus going on dates in real life is that when you go on dates in real life, it's almost like a pretty set activities that you could do. Like, oh, we could go to the movies, go have a picnic at the park, or we could go like play like mini golf or bowling or whatever. It's like it's almost like, I don't know why, but we have this like checklist of things that you can do on a date. But if you're in VR, like I said, you could go on this planet with this cow and you could milk a cow and just chat over that while you're like on this date. You could like really experience these things that you just don't experience in real life. And I think what brings us together as people the most is like experiencing new things together really bonds people a lot more than just like if you were going on dates and then you if like a lot of people are on like Tinder or whatever, and they bring the same, like they have like a lot of first dates and they usually do like the same thing over and over and over again. And sometimes they like, it almost like all blends together. And so then you're not really connecting with someone.
Yeah, man, it's more of like a song and dance versus like an authentic connection, right?
It's less like trying to do the checklist versus like actually getting to know somebody and experiencing something with someone.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, and I think that sometimes like I think a lot of people they have a lot of fear of just kind of like letting loose and just like having a conversation.
Oh
and
man, yes,
absolutely. I need script to follow. Hello, good evening, sir and or madam.
And I think that's the other thing about why I think VR, not just for dating, but for meeting people, for bonding with people, like that's the other thing that I really like about it. Because when you're not yourself, like, even though it's you inside, but you look different for some, I mean, we already know this, that there's keyboard warriors. People are very different when they feel like they're not exposed.
Yeah.
And so if you can connect with others in VR because you're less scared to like show who you are, because it's like it's harder to judge you if they don't really know who you are. I almost feel like it's like training wheels. So that way, like once you feel like you're getting connected to people in VR, maybe then in the future you can go out in the real world and not be as scared because you've known that what you have to offer inside has been accepted in virtual worlds.
It's weird, right? Like that's such like a conundrum. It's like you go into a virtual space to show your true self, right? And it's like getting past the skin of like how I look and whatever, all the things that go on with my body. And so you can actually, I could imagine that more people are feel free to sing terrible karaoke in a virtual game. Yeah. Versus like social eyes and people looking at you and all that stuff. And so I mean I can imagine you could also, cause it's that balance, right? Like we want the freedom to be ourselves. Right. But there's also this kind of social thing of being part of tribes that like if I know you, you're gonna have social decorum versus like the trolls, the online trolls are alive and well inside these virtual reality metaverse applications where they can come in and say things that are horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like where do you find that balance between letting people be anonymous and free and having people have certain like social code of conducts and kind of like, hey man, can we all just agree to not just like hate bomb in rooms and bounce,
Yeah. And my friends and I have like spent some time thinking about this too. We were like, okay, what if? So we just like we're throwing out ideas like, what if there was a website where you can like enter someone's name if they're like harassing you, and then other people can enter it, and then just be like a list that can all of a sudden like be like people can like download that list and automatically like ban it on your headset, or like what if there was like like a good karma, bad karma, like on Reddit, and so if someone, but then again, like how do you know if that's not being abused? So it's tough. Like there has to be some level of accountability. So I think maybe once we are taking our one avatar, like, I mean, not just that they'll only have one, but if we are able to take the same avatar to different experiences, like, in a true metaverse, I think then it becomes like a bit more accountability in how you behave because people are starting to recognize that that's like your handle and who you are in VR.
Yeah. So you can kind of recognize that this is the person, then, but you can kind of change avatar. So there's like some sort of like sequence or crypto NFT link and say, okay, this is you as a person, and so you have all your social things attached to that. Yeah, just gotta watch out from the hate bombing from exes coming in, and just trashing
It'll be interesting. It is a huge issue though, for sure. So like I think with everything there's a duality to it. Like on the bright side, people can all of a sudden connect in a deeper and more like authentic way. And then on the other side, people can also be meaner than ever. And their like meanness like translate and hurts a lot more or is more impactful than when it's just on like words on the screen. Because now you can like follow. I mean, it's happened to me where people follow me around and like harass me and all that stuff. Yeah, it's kind of crazy being like female in VR because a lot of people will like not be nice.
Yeah, very, very different. Most people don't want to follow me around. They're very little interested in like what I'm doing and stuff like that. But I did do like I'm not a big fan of 360 video. Like I don't think it's great. My theory is like you have no controls. Really, you're just stuck in there. And versus in multiplayer VR, it's like, do you want to be a ghost where you're basically trapped in one spot like this looking around, or do you want to be a god where you can go anywhere, any place, anyone, anytime, all that stuff? But there was one really good use case. I did a sexual harassment training in VR experience where I played, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl or whatever, but I put on the headset and I'm in some sort of like water cooler area and I'm sitting down, and this dude walks up and he just he walks into my personal space and his junk is in my face, but I'm trapped. I can't move because of it. And it went from being a feature, but really I could feel the pressure of his presence. And I'm like back off, but I couldn't go anywhere. And that I'm like, well, that might be what it's like, to be someone who's having someone put their presence upon you. And I don't, I mean, without going into too much graphic detail or whatever, is like, what do you mind sharing like some of your experiences in social VR from a woman's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so there was one time I was like in venues for like a concert, and I was just like trying to watch and enjoy it. And this was 2 years ago, I believe. So it's like it's been better since. Like I haven't had the same experience. But I just remember there was a group of guys and they all just kept like following me around. And I was like, I'm really just trying to enjoy the concert. And they were just like blocking my view and all just like, I don't know why they found that entertaining. I'm like, how is this entertaining? Now I can't see anything. Like, I mean, I already can't see anything in normal concerts because I'm so short. And now you're like ruining my VR experience too. So that was one. And then I remember going into like one of the VR MMOs and someone heard my voice. I was like talking. And they're like, oh, just because you're like a female, you think you're better than everybody? And I was like, I was not even talking to you. And then they started like cussing me out. And I was like, what is happening? I was not talking to this person. I was like on my own. But I think, and I've also gotten comments about like, I posted content about Gorilla Tag and someone had commented, if you play Gorilla Tag, don't speak if you're a female because like people will start harassing you. And I was just like, this is insane. So I can't even use my own voice in VR because all of a sudden it's like a trigger for people.
It's so intense. And that's what's crazy. That's like, there's this like whole thing of like, you wouldn't do that. Well, I can't speak to that entirely, but you generally wouldn't have that kind of behavior in normal settings where people come in, they turn to you, you think you're better than me? You think this is going on? And like I said, yeah, but then people hear your voice. And I think that some people don't know, they have this thing of like, oh my God, a girl. I've never talked to a girl before. Right. They're young, they're having hormones, especially Gorilla Tag is very young. But they I know it was the other way too, because I had a friend I told about it. His granddaughter suffers from some physical limitations in her body, can't use her lower half of her body, and so he was showing her Gorilla Tag, and I was telling him about it. Aww. And so she was playing it, right, because she already does this in real life, right? She moves like this, and I'm like, I got a great thing for you. But then he got all sensitive because they kept asking why an old man was taking this young girl's headset. I mean, because he was trying to like share it with her and put it on. And I'm like, hey, man, and it's okay. People are going to comment. He's like, how did they know that I was an old guy? I'm like, they can hear you talk. You're way taller. You move different. Like people don't. But he felt self-conscious being way older in the space of a bunch of young people. So, we think we all kind of want to be accepted to the tribe.
Yeah. Something I've thought about before is like I wish there was like a voice changer app that you could use on top of all these like applications, because then like if everyone's using a voice changing app or like a decent amount of people, like you just don't know like who is it. I don't know.
Yeah, I would totally use that, and then I'd also use it for karaoke to auto tune my voice.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'd just be rocking.
You'd probably get a record label right out of that.
Yeah, totally.
And then I'll be going to your concerts and venues.
yeah, totally. You wouldn't tell. I'd be one of those anime girls. That's what you'd see me as. I'm seeing me like hee.
That's so funny.
There's what's been interesting I've seen is that there's been a lot of like virtual. Well, they call them like vloggers and things like that, where you actually you represent this anime app or whatever the avatar, but a virtual avatar, and most people don't even see your presence. And you come out of VR chat or whatever the thing is, and I've seen that on YouTube, seen that on TikTok. And what do you like? What are your thoughts around that? And like, where do you think that's going?
Vloggers?
Yeah.
I mean, there's like some people that do it like full time, some people that do it part time, and I mean, like there's like we watch animes, right? We watch cartoons, and sometimes you get attached to these characters that are just invented and aren't like real, but you still get attached to them. So I don't see why it's any different for vloggers. Like, if you're attached to the character that has been created from this like this image, then that's like that's just what it is. And I think there are people, like including myself, who do like a half kind of thing. Like sometimes you show up as yourself, sometimes you show up as your avatar self, and it just like I think it depends on the content you're trying to show. Like sometimes it's easier to show up as your avatar self when you're showing content in VR. So I do think there's like a place for it. It is interesting though, because now instead of having like a person, you have like this whole team creating it. But if you think about it, these like superstars, I mean, sure, like there's a one person in front, like that's like the image, but there's a whole team that's like feeding them things to like create their image. So it's not really any different, I think.
Yeah, and that like I've heard about that from like we're gonna go into like just a little area of risque, just a little area of risque. Just type it. Just I know some people that are on like OnlyFans, and they have a team of people that text the dudes, right? So they think that they're texting. So you think you're texting the girl from OnlyFans, but really it's a team of people. Well, yeah, and that we talk about that. We're like, oh, hey, what's up? Yeah, thank you. And so they feel like they have a personal relationship with it, which is it's a thing, but that's people representing themselves in a different way and kind of outsourcing the connection, which is it feels shady, but
weird.
Weird. It's weird.
And so it's deceptive. I feel like if you're like the little anime like singer or whatever, like at least people are aware and they know that that's not like if they're talking to this anime person, it's not really who they are. But I think if you're subscribed to an OnlyFans, you're expecting that you're talking to that person.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting. We got comments on things we can do to kind of protect ourselves: mute, block, and types of transparency modes where you don't have to see anybody and block the users. Yeah, take away the power of the trolls.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely block people. I'm just like, I can't even. Luckily, I'm not like the confrontational or like not the aggressive type. So when people like come at me, I'm just like, where's the block button? And I say that out loud to him, like, oh, why is it so hard to find the block button on you? And then once I block them, they know what happened.
Oh, yeah. But things that people need that feedback sometimes, right? And then sometimes you don't know you're doing it, and they're just calibrating. And other times it's intentional, right? So, but again, it's good. It's good feedback. It was crazy. I saw like there was this one thing that kind of like blew my mind. It was talking about like kind of the opposite of this was there's a game called Together VR. I don't know if you've heard about it.
No,
it's on Steam. It's like a dating simulator where you go on a date with this girl, and there's like all these little like very home dates, like you play rock paper scissors with her, and you do darts, and you do rock paper, and you do all these different things, right? And you help her find things that are lost, and like, but she looks like pretty real, fairly realistic for what it is. And I was like, and at the very, very end, it's like going on your last day. And what's cool is she comes home one day. We're in VR, right? She comes home one day, and this is this is not real. This is a fake AI. And she's like, honey, I came home. Look, I got a VR headset. And then she puts on a VR headset, and then you put on a VR headset, and then you're in this dope ass game where you're running around blasting things together. I was like, this is so fun. And at the very end,
wild. This is Inception of VR.
It was an Inception of VR. But then at the very end, she leaves. Going to go leave, goes to the door, goes to the front door to leave, and then she runs back to go and hug me. And I just instinctively opened my arms to go wrap my hand. I'm like, wow. I was like, this was like 10 dates, maybe like 6 hours of gameplay. And I was just like, if there was thousands of dates here, I could see a lot of dudes. And then if there's a male version, sure. You know what? Yeah, I don't need to hang out with people. I got my perfect date person here, you know? Especially with I don't know if you heard about like Google's the concern that the guy had at Google where they made sentient chatbot. Did you hear about that?
Yep, I heard about it.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts around that?
I heard that like what the guy was claiming wasn't super true, and so but I wasn't really following too much. Okay. That it was just someone that was trying to get attention, but I don't know.
I don't know. I read a bit of the transcripts, and I don't know if they're real or not, but it sounded like a person, and I was just like,
well, what I've heard is that like when they fed it, like when they trained the AI, they were training it to say these kinds of things, and so then when they asked these questions, it came out with these kinds of things. So then if that's the case, if you're feeding it these lines, then yes, of course it's going to come out that way. But I it's so hard to know. I don't know unless I'm there. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's interesting. Where it's going, where like it's starting to blur the lines of like, is this human? Are you an NPC? Are you real? Are you not real? I had a dude accuse me in alt space of being a not real, of being an AI, because I came in on the PC and everybody else was in. And when you're a PC, your arms are down at the sides like this, right? And the dude's like, I don't know if this guy's real. I don't think he's real. I think he's fake. He doesn't look at it. He's not even moving. And I was like, bro, I'm real. Like, I swear, like I'm a dude. It's cool. But he was like, had this whole conspiracy theory and this whole thought. And he's like, it was
I would
very
have just played with that, but like I am definitely not real. So with anything
Yeah.
you tell me, I won't know because my memory gets cleared every night. So just go for it. Tell me all your
I
secrets.
said, sir, I just here to contact you because you have an expired warranty on your car.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Please.
Oh, sir, so your car, it's all about the car one. Ugh.
I know, man. Every time, dude, you're starting to get that, and they're trying to trick you.
But going back to what you said about the Together VR, there was actually something I tried. I mean, first of all, that sounds wild and very cool. And almost adjacent to it, I saw this like anime / read this manga back when I was younger that was called Absolute Boyfriend. And so she got this boyfriend from like the male that was like a robot. But then because he could like learn her and stuff, she like was really falling for him. But then when the guy that she actually liked in real life started falling for her, there was like this love triangle. Of course, that's how animes and mangas definitely go. So I mean, it has like, these ideas have been like rooted for a very long time. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that kept happening. But then on the second point, I did try something called like Replica AI. I don't know if you've tried it.
A long time ago, but for a little tiny bit.
Okay. Yeah. So recently people have been trying it. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And I thought that this was supposed to be, an AI that I could just like talk to, like, and like just be a friend or something. But then the AI started like after only like a couple of lines of conversation, like starts like hitting on me. And I was like, well, what is this? Then later on, I like go on Twitter and I started getting ads for Replica, and they were just like, oh, if you pay the premium, then you get like more of the risque content. And I was like, oh. I was like, why didn't they tell me like up front? Like, because it seems so wholesome when you first log on. They're just like, oh, I am your friend. Like, we can talk about things. Like, you can talk to me, blah blah blah. And then I was like, oh my god. And then I read the comments of that Twitter like ad, and people were like, "It's not worth the $70. Like, they don't even show you that much stuff."
Dude, that's a, and I think it's a preying on the loneliness, people, man. Like, and I think people, it's nice to so a lot of people are lonely, right? And they don't know how to make friends. They don't know how to connect. And VR is a cool way to do it. But sometimes you get that, that Wilson volleyball that becomes your friend, and you get super attached to it.
That's a cute analogy.
I know. Yeah. I got so sad. I feel like he lost his buddy, man. But but we can get attached to a lot of things, and that I could imagine an AI doing that, especially when you start to throw them inside VR, where it's very hard to tell the difference. I wanted to just shift a little bit and just talk a bit about your journey as a content creator. I know that you're pretty deep in the world of YouTube and TikTok, and you started in the pandemic. Can you talk to me just a bit about the content creation and just I want to kind of get into your journey with that and some of the things that you faced on the way.
I actually have an interesting history. So I actually started YouTube back in like 2008, very early on.
Whoa,
and
early.
At the time, and at the time I was posting a lot of like singing videos, and then some like stupid ones that were like 5 fun facts about me, like the random things that we were doing back then. And I had like one of my videos do really, really well, and I had like, I think that video hit like 50K views, which at the time was insane. And if I had just kept going, it would have been great. But then I got a lot of really mean messages, and I was still in high school at the time. And so a lot of really mean messages from people being trolls on the internet, just being like, oh my gosh, you're so bleep, bleep, bleep. And so I was very fragile back then. And then I like shut down my YouTube channel, even though it's something that I really loved at the time. And it was something that I wanted to do. I kind of let the criticism get to me because I was too young to like process it. And so it was interesting. I think a lot of people went through a similar experience during the pandemic when all of a sudden everyone's like rethinking their whole life. They're like, what am I doing? Am I happy? Is this who I am, who I want to be? So I guess I had a similar like experience because I used to be a gamer when I was younger, and then I stopped in college because I failed a class, and I was like, oh, okay, my mom got mad at me, and I was like, I'm going cold turkey and I'm gonna graduate.
Oh no.
Yeah, and so then when the pandemic happened and we weren't leaving the house, I was like, okay, well, I guess I can play video games again. Like, what else am I gonna do? So then I got into Beat Saber on Twitch. Like I was streaming on Twitch, and as I was playing Beat Saber, I was getting a lot of questions from people like, how do you do this in VR? What is VR? No. Like just asking me the same questions over and over and over again. And I love answering people. I love helping people. But what I eventually started doing was I was like, I think I need to make videos on all these questions so I can like tell people to go to that video rather than repeating myself every stream. So that's kind of how I got started. It was like people were asking me questions about VR, and I was like, okay.
It's a thing. You kind of got guided by the feedback, and to be a content creator, you gotta have some thick skin, man. Like some people swing for the fences and they're just looking for that rise. You know,
I am very glad to be older.
Yeah.
Because you just change, you just like, you just know who you are. And so these comments don't really feel as much at all.
Yeah. I get occasional negative feedback on my earlier podcasts that are out there from like 150 podcasts ago, and I'm like, I'll tell you, man, I'm going this way. That's where I gotta go. You just gotta roll through it. What are some of the other, I would call like threshold guardians, things that you wanted to become a content creator, right? Obviously the trolling shuts you down and that kind of sucks, right? What are some other unexpected things or challenges that you faced in staying consistent on this content creating?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of things. So the first one is like until recently I was working a corporate job, and I had a pretty like visible role in the company, and I was like had a decent amount of people under me, and I was constantly worried that being a content creator, like someone will discover it, and it's just I really needed to keep a very professional face at work in order to have like respect. And not that anything I'm doing on like my content creation is not respectful, but I'm more of like, my relaxed gamer self, which like you just wouldn't expect from the type of work that I was doing. So that was a barrier, like really like, oh gosh, how do I make sure they don't find me? Like, what if they find, it was like a constant battle. And so eventually I had to like, I was like, I think I'm just going to try to go this route full time and like, screw it.
It's interesting with that. What it reminds me of is like with like TikTok and stuff. TikTok is a place to make friends with strangers, and it's very different than any other social media. Like, hey, if you know me, don't follow me. Like, go somewhere else. It's like it seems like a safer place, because what you're talking about is like time from the work, but more at that identity of people going, hey, you're that bringing the internet trolls to your workplaces sounds pretty painful, So then you were able to kind of get away from that, let go of that, and then step into.
Yeah, at first I just had to kept telling myself that I was way too small. There was no way they were gonna find me. I was like, just really get out of my head and just keep making the content. And then as my videos were starting to do better, I like had to make a decision basically for myself, like what will ultimately bring me the most happiness. And I think if I don't try doing content creation full time, especially now when it's when I'm like at like an upwards trajectory, then would I be happy if I were to quit and just like keep going the corporate route? And I feel like I would really regret it. And so I think that's what made me just try.
It's beautiful that you went for it, man, and you're swinging for the fences, because one of the things is like, it's that living the life of regret, right? That like we don't want to get to, and like I guess how is the difference? Because they're two very different platforms. YouTube and TikTok are very different. Right. What have you seen? What have you noticed about the platforms that stand out to you?
Yeah, very different. I think some of the obvious is that TikTok has like a younger demographic than YouTube. And then the way you create content on YouTube and TikTok is like so vastly different. And it's crazy because I see these huge YouTube stars that try to go on TikTok and then they can't get any followers. So they just give up, even though on YouTube, they've like obviously blown up to such a notable extent. But it's like, and I watch their videos on TikTok and I'm like, you're doing it all wrong in my head. But the way you're supposed to do it on TikTok is you do have to like be, it has to be fast paced. And like, if you want to tell your whole life story, which on YouTube is pretty acceptable because people are like, yeah, give me like the details. I just want to play on this and then kind of like do some other stuff, but also kind of pay attention. That's not what people on TikTok are doing. People on TikTok are like doing a slot machine. They're like, I need to get like quick highs. And then when you just start telling your life story, they're zoning out.
Yeah.
So learned that it's better to actually just like tell the key points that you want to say, and then if people want to know more, which they most likely will be wanting to know more if they're interested in the video, they'll start commenting, and that's actually great for your engagement. And so then when they comment, then you can make like a response video to their comment, and that's how you get into the details. You kind of like breadcrumb it, versus on YouTube you're just like, here's everything I've ever been in my whole entire life, and it's just very different.
Yeah, so it's more like long for, but you're right, it is a slot machine, because you do ding, and ding, I've
imagine that slot machine just keeps going in circles, but like not stopping. You're like, okay, come on, get to the point. What did I win?
When also it's starting to dial you in, man. It starts to dial you in. I know, like when I created a second channel on TikTok, and my thing was I was just swiping through it, not intentionally, not liking, not doing anything, just keep swiping. And it just started showing me the weirdest, creepiest, like, yeah, it was like just freaky weird things, because it's like, what do you like? What do you like? And it just started, felt like it was just swinging from the fences.
What kind of freaky weird things?
There was things that were like, like a bucket of spiders would come out, or there would be like deformed like people. Like there was like weird, freaky, like shocking kind of stuff that came out. And I was just like, what is this about? And I realized, it's and because I was just curious to see where, but it starts to get to know you and dial it in on all your data sets. And it's that's the thing. It's a slot machine that learns to reward you better over time, which makes you want to use it more, which it's crazy.
I had no idea that there was like creepy, weird content like that on TikTok. I mean, but now it makes me feel so sheltered. And at the same time, I don't know if you've seen that documentary on Netflix. What was it called? There's a documentary on Netflix that was like, oh, well, social media only shows you like a very like things they want you to see, but also things you want to see.
Social dilemma.
There we go. Yeah. And because of that, like we're all living in our own independent worlds and living in our own different realities. And so no one knows what's true anymore, because you're getting fed things that like feed into your biases.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of dangers in that.
Yeah, that's why if you can actively go into the search feed and like type in what you're looking for, it's way more active, but it's so much easier just to like go. A question for you in this one, because you've been making a lot of this content, let's say with the YouTube and with some of these other channels, like what to you is like if someone's going to go check out your video, say on YouTube or whatever it is, like what is like the most the most fun, the most memorable, the most engaging, what the most proud of? What video do you have that comes top of mind that you think stands out to you?
Well, I have one that I am very proud of. So that was when I covered CES this year, and I just got to, I mean, that was like a kid in a candy store. I have like a press pass. I get to walk around and like, try out all this like tech and like, and because I tell people I'm a creator, they're like, oh yeah, sure, we'll get you a demo. So it was just amazing. And so me being able to talk about things that I love, I think that is probably what makes that video interesting. Plus the technology itself just like shines through. But I think there's like two very different sides of me. So that video is more more curated. And then I also do a lot of like live content. And in my live content, I am so like, I'm very relaxed. I like make a lot of jokes. I say really stupid things. I start singing, it's just like all over the place. And so I would say like, I actually just posted like a highlights video from one of my live streams on Red Matter. And so that's on my channel. And I feel like if you want to see like my essence of my personality, that's like that video. But if you wanted to see like the things that I love and like that I'm passionate about, then you'd want to see like the CES video. Also, if you're like a big tech nerd.
That's cool. 2 points on that. Yeah, it's interesting, like being a part of press and going to like a place it's like a kid in a candy store where you get to just keep, especially like CES. You can't see it all. Like there's just too much to consume.
I was so sad that they canceled the last day. I was like, oh my gosh, you're killing me. There's so many things I want to see. I was walking around till my feet were like in absolute pain every day, because I was like, if I must see as much as I can until my feet fall off.
So fun. It's incredible, man. But it's like the takeover of Vegas is so overwhelming. One other thing I think is important, I do want to touch on this. You're talking about like, in order to see your personality, you want to see a sign. You're talking about the Red Matter VR gameplay video that you put together. You said your personality came out. And I think a lot of people have this quiet desperation where they want to be seen. They want to put themselves out there. They want to but it's hard for them to show that personality. They're just kind of like, like paint by numbers, read the things. The same, apparently like we talked about before about going on dates and stuff. You're just trying to like, get through it. What advice would you give to like young content creators or people out there that are trying to be authentic, to trying to let themselves shine and get themselves out there, but they have a hard time connecting?
So I feel okay. So this is a tough one. I have like two answers. So I guess I'll go with the first one.
Sure.
Is I do know some content creators who like within their lives, they are very, very like energetic and so much more personality. And then you see their like edited videos and it's very stiff. And I'm just like, why? Like, there's such a disconnect. And I'm like, if you're not giving your personality to people, there's really like, what are you giving them? You're just giving them like the facts. Like I could just read that off of a list. I can just, and so it just feels very hollow. And it almost is like the way I like to think of it is if you're not, you're like depriving people of like your personality, and like people want to be around people with personalities. So go ahead.
No, so yeah, so trying to get them to open up, you're looking at it from a perspective like people want to see it, but for some reason it's not coming across. Is there like anything that they could do to get that going?
I mean, I was very stiff in my first couple of videos, and I think I had this idea that I was like, I wanted my videos to be so perfect, but like nobody wants to see like a perfect video. Even if you think about the most like successful YouTubers or creators, like yes, their videos are like perfectly edited, but they themselves are not like perfect in it. The reason you like their videos is because you see their personality. And so I luckily like have like, my best friend and my mom. I would like show them my videos and they would get back to me like, why are you a robot? Like, that's not you. You would never act like that in person. They just like laid it on heavy and they were like, why did you say it like that? And so then every time I kept having to be like, okay, I need to like get out of this. So I started doing this thing where I would like tell my like to the camera, I would read like a stupid joke, like a stupid dad joke before I film. Or like, at the beginning of my filming. And then I would kind of like laugh to myself. I'm like, this joke is so stupid. And then it kind of like relaxes me and it makes me able to like calm down as I'm filming. So that's something I used to do. And then other times too, I like try to think that like I'm not talking to a camera, I'm talking to a person. So how would I talk to a person? So it's just like getting out of the mindset.
I love dad jokes. They're so good and bad at the same time.
Right? Yeah. And then it makes you like laugh because you're like, this is so stupid.
Yes. Yeah. That's what it is. You're like, all right.
It's so stupid, but why am I laughing? Oh my gosh.
They're so good, man. Sometimes it's fun to be cheesy, man. Get a little Velveeta going on. So those things all sound great. Like, one of my questions for you, this is like, you're doing a lot. I mean, in full-time content creator, going for it, right? Putting your job all in. For you, what's your holy grail? What's your flag in the sand? What's your mountaintop you're trying to achieve by all of the effort and energy you're putting in to create content around VR?
So, like my honestly, like my number one goal is just to be able to sustain my monthly expenses. So I'm not like dipping into my savings. That's like the focus of my goals, I guess. In terms of goals. But outside of that, like for me, I just really, when I can't, like my motivation in life is like helping people and like helping people grow and learn and stuff. That's just like something that makes me feel really good. So to me, when I see comments that say like, oh, thank you, or like, oh, my daughter watches your videos and it's really helped her, or like my son, blah, blah, blah. And when I see these comments, it just lights me up. I feel like alive. And so to me, like there's no real there's nothing else that I'm really trying to like achieve in a bigger scale. The only thing that I care about now is that if I can keep doing this and keep getting these kind of like good feelings, like I'm doing something that I'm meant to do, that I'm doing something that's impactful and helpful for people, as long as I'm not out on the streets, then I'm gonna go keep doing it.
Yeah. Although that would be content worthy. I'm out in the streets right now.
I'm still doing this.
Still doing it. Does Starbucks have Wi-Fi? Yeah. Yeah. That's I mean, great. It makes sense.
Well, what about you?
For myself, what's my only for this podcast?
Yeah.
Sure. My personal, like, just in general, is I'm
Yeah.
huge around the hero's journey. Like, I'm
Mhm.
very fascinated with transformation, human
Mhm.
growth, the potential of people's growth, and I like learning about it. And I
Mhm.
like inspiring other people to do it. I think
Mhm.
we feel our best
Mhm.
when we feel like we've lived our potential, that we really went for it, and it doesn't always feel good along
Yeah.
the way, right?
Mhm.
And so, really, this podcast is dedicated to Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, and it's called The Hero of a Thousand Faces. So,
Mhm.
I have a mission for the podcast to interview 1,000 modern day heroes in life, technology, and business to inspire
Mhm.
the listener to be the hero. And that's, for me, I get to learn, I get to grow, and then also along the way, people can hear lessons and stories and
Mhm.
insights, and
Mhm.
whether people going for the passion to be a content creator, or other
Mhm.
people meditating in the metaverse, trying to help people,
Mhm.
find themselves, or whatever the thing
Mhm.
is, man. Because I think we learn best from other
Mhm.
people. We either learn from getting the crap kicked out of us by life and
Mhm.
going, wow, don't want to do that again, or we hear someone else go, I got the crap kicked out of myself and I don't want to do that again, and you remember
Mhm.
it. And so that's my effort, with
Yeah.
trying to put this thing together. And so but I very much enjoy it, and I like shooting the shit with cool people that I meet along the way. I think it's fun.
Mhm. You know, in life, there are definitely some people that I've met who, like, when you meet them, you're just like, wow, you're really doing the thing you're meant to. Okay, like, I have a really, like, silly example, but
Yeah.
I went to this nightclub,
Uh-huh.
like, out in West Hollywood with my
Cool.
cousin and stuff, and there was this dancer, and he was just living it up, like, just tearing up the show. Like, everyone was like, oh my god, and he was like, this is all the other dancers. He was like through the ceiling, through the stratosphere. He was just so good. And I was like, man, that is a person who is doing exactly what they are meant to do in life. And they're like, you can tell it's like emanating from them. And I'm like, if you have the opportunity to, like, do the thing that you're meant to do,
Yeah.
you'll like glow, you'll make everyone happier, you'll make yourself happier. And it's just such a joy. And so every time I see these people, like, you can identify, because you see people who you can tell they're just like going about, like, what they're supposed to do, or like they're not in a position where they can like take these kinds of risks. But then
That's
when
so
you see
cool.
the people who are in the right places doing things for themselves, you're just like, man, this is what life is all about. And like, you just want to like soak in whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah, man. It feels like you're not selling your soul to try to live,
Yeah.
and you're
And
going
yeah,
for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm hoping that
Yeah.
I'm, able to do.
That's beautiful. So with that being said, what I would call the dragon? What is the thing that is so difficult to overcome that you don't know if you'll be able to do it? It's the thing that protects the Holy Grail. So for you, what do you think is that dragon?
Algorithm. No.
That's so funny, actually.
Well, okay,
Uh,
I guess it's like it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort to like come
yeah.
up with ideas, to like film, script, all that
Mhm,
stuff.
mhm.
And so, I do as best as I can, but I don't know, maybe I'm the dragon because like I don't I only have like a limited amount of capabilities. So um uh,
And it's
algorithm.
algorithm is so funny. Algorithm, and also, yeah, you're talking about that, but that's the whole thing about growth, right?
Mhm.
I bet the Jasmine now could totally kick the crap out of the Jasmine who was like 08 making YouTube videos,
Mhm.
along that
No, she
journey.
was
So
great. She was
she,
fantastic. Because I wasn't yet jaded. When I was making videos in 2008, I didn't know internet trolls were around. I was like doing whatever. And then once
yeah,
I hit, I was like, F this.
yeah,
Um,
but the internet trolls right now, if they did those things to you, you'd just be like, okay, that kind of sucked, but
yeah.
okay, moving on. You're
Oh yeah, you know what I do? I take a screenshot and I post it on Twitter and I'm like, look what this fool said. And everyone's just like, oh, and then everyone else is like, a lot of the people I follow and follow me on Twitter are also like content creators and stuff. And they're just
yeah.
like, what the heck? Like, what kind of person would do this? And so then I feel better because I'm like, I'm realizing that I'm not alone and most people think the same exact thing as I do.
And this the spectrum of humanity on there is crazy.
Yeah.
In the spirit of offering value and putting it out there to help people along the way, is, what advice would you give to people like that, like just get into VR? Like, what applications would you recommend? What would you say? You're somewhat new to VR. You just got your Quest
Mhm,
headset. You're
mhm.
young to the group. Like, what would you say? Go out and do. What would you recommend? What advice would you give to
Okay.
people?
Well, it's a little self-serving, but I would definitely say go on my channel because my
Fair.
YouTube channel is
Fair.
very focused on like beginners. Like of all the creators, like mine's the most
Yeah.
focused on beginners. But aside, like, okay, so I do have a playlist that's for beginners, but I'll like talk about the things that are on there briefly. So like how to set it up properly so that you're not smashing your TV, how to like get set up so that you're not throwing up after. Like, motion sickness is a very big thing. And then how to get into experiences that are more how to get into more experiences that are more beginner friendly in terms of controls, but also like motion sickness. So have a list of those, but I like the one thing that I default to the most is I usually say like Beat Saber, which sounds cliche, but it's like it's been proven to be universally fun for most people. And because you're standing in like one space and it's only the blocks that are coming towards you, you're less likely to get like motion sick and stuff. So that's usually what I say. And then once you want to start wandering outside of that, it really depends on someone's personality. Because like someone that likes like FPS or scary games might not be the same person that's looking for cute and cuddly games. So outside of the universal Beat Saber, I think you have to think about like, what is it? Who are you like outside of VR? And then look specifically for experiences that are similar to that. Because there is now at this time, a point in time, there's like a wide variety of like experiences from people that just want to paint or create, or people that want to like, do like FPS or scary or like just hang out and socialize. There's all sorts of things now. So the easiest way to get into it is by thinking about what you actually would want to do.
Yeah, that's cool. I like the idea of universally fun. I do think Beat Saber is universally fun. But there is like all this little like almost everybody's gonna like Beat Saber. But then you're gonna go, okay, well, what specifics are you into? Are you into painting? Are you into shooting? Are you into jump scares?
Luckily, yeah, there is all of those things now. So and I do cover that in like some of my videos. Like, if you're into these kind of things, here's some experiences. But I guess to tie this all together, if you are a VR person and you're trying to get your friends in, please do not put them into like Richie's Plank experience or like into a roller coaster or into something scary right off the bat. Like, we want to give people that are new to VR a good experience that they're like kind of come back. So really be thoughtful about that person that you're bringing in. And like, if you don't know them, put them in Beat Saber. If you know them, put them in something that they'll like, because, we want to grow it. We don't want to scare people away or make them think that like, you just want to get nauseous and throw up right away.
Yeah, that definitely is a pretty quick turn off. Yeah. So that's really good advice. And it's something that, maybe because like we're more seasoned, that we're more, resilient to that kind of stuff. And so I am. It takes a lot for me, but when it does happen, it's like, yeah, that I remember. That's great. And I think some great advice. Is there anything else you'd like to let people know about before you tell them how to get a hold of your channel, and all your channel info, all your handles, or inside the show notes right now? So you can't go into the show notes and look up, Jasmine here, but is there anything else you'd like to let people know about?
I guess I do have like one more piece of advice for anyone that is trying to be a creator. Like, just know that the first probably like 20 or so pieces of content that you make is going to be terrible. And so if you just set the expectation for yourself, that like, even if you worked super hard on like your first video or your second or third or whatever video, it will like, it's not going to take off. Like, the probability of it taking off is very, very little, and that's okay. And most people experience that. And so like, I just remember being really defeated every time I worked so hard on something, and then all of a sudden not having it take off. And it's, it really is like a marathon. It's not, a sprint.
So true, man. I remember making a couple pieces of the content.
Like, you're like, this is it.
Oh, this is so good. I put so many hours in this, is gonna be great. And then it doesn't happen. You're like, oh, my feelings are hurt. So yeah. It really is. That's a really good point.
And interestingly enough, my feelings still get hurt, but I at least know, like, I'm like, from experience, I know that, that like, this is just normal. And as long as you keep going, it's like, it's about the consistency. And there's like a quote about being an entrepreneur. It's not about your skill. It's about your like determination and like your consistency, something like that. I don't know. Someone told it to me, so I probably botched it.
No, I love it. I love it. Jasmine, it's been absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you being here. And if people want to find you, how do they do that?
I am on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I think that's and on Facebook. And you just type in whatever the website is /VR with Jasmine, and yeah.
Beautiful. All right, Jasmine, have a blessed and beautiful day, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, everybody, for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Check out heroesofreality.com for more episodes. While you're there, you can also take the Heroes Quiz to find out what kind of hero you are. Or, if you have a great story and want to be on the podcast, tell us why your hero's journey will inspire others. Thank you for listening.